Hey, hello, everybody. It's kind of late at night, East Coast time, but still the best time to do a live stream. Hello there, hello there, hello in New York City. So I'm going to do a Q&A tonight. Hello, everybody. I guess just to get things started, if this happens to be the first time you're watching one of these videos and you want to get an alert when I do a live stream or when I upload a video, well, of course, you could subscribe, but then hit the little bell next to the subscribe button if you want to get a notification. Otherwise, it's really hard to catch the live streams. All right, let's see. Hello in Seattle, hello in Ohio, hello in Kansas City. Hello in Austin. Okay, good. I have my stream up. So I have a whole bunch of questions that I saved from my previous Q&A that I'm going to address. And then I'll go through those as quickly as I can, and then I'll take some of the questions being posted to the live stream. Pop out the chat. I'm going to post a link to this in the supporters of Leah Remini group. Oh yeah, if anyone does not know, we have the contributors to Scientology in the Aftermath have created I guess you could call it a fan page called Supporters of Leah Remini Scientology in the Aftermath. And all of the contributors are moderators on the group. And the idea here is that we would use the group as like kind of a master frequently asked questions page. We're going to collect the best answers, the best, most complete answers to the most frequently asked questions. But also you have all of the contributors to the show on the page, almost all of them. And if you want to know which contributors are on the page, just pull up the membership list and click on moderators. And all of the moderators are contributors, and all of the contributors have been made moderators. So it's kind of a list of the membership. So that's going to be fun. Leah is actually going to tweet out a link to that group on Tuesday night and kind of encourage people to join that group if they want to kind of continue the conversation that started on the show. That conversation can be continued in the supporters of Leah Remini Scientology in the Aftermath Facebook group. All right, let me post this here. I hope that works. You know, sometimes when I copy the link, I'm copying the link from the back end and it's actually not the public link and it doesn't work. If anyone's watching this stream right now and they're already a member of that supporters group, can you copy the stream you're looking at and paste it in there? I'm just not sure if the link I'm posting is actually appropriate for the public to click on. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's not the right link. Let's see. Link in chat. Oh, okay, I got it. It says no permission when I post it. Ah, shit. All right, guess I'm gonna delete it then. All right, I'm just gonna ask someone else to post it in that group because it's not gonna work for me, and I'll just get rolling on the Q&A here. Okay, so I have what I copied and pasted. I copied screenshots of the comment, and the comment is very, very large, but it had a bunch of really good questions. I see some really good questions popping up too, but I'm not gonna let myself get distracted. All right, so let's just go down this. I'm gonna read this. I have the most questions about how people lived in and survived in the hole. Mike Rinder mentioned that he spent 2 years in the hole. My questions are about the logistics of this. Okay, I already know where this is going. So the hole was a double wide trailer that in order to, well, it acted as a prison, a makeshift prison. But it's not true that they were never allowed out of the trailer. They were allowed out of the trailer at least once a day. It sounds like I'm being like, oh, it wasn't that bad. They were allowed out at least once a day. No, I'm just saying. They were allowed out to like shower. And I don't even think they were allowed out to eat. I think the food was thrown in there for them. David Miscavige wanted them to really feel like it was a prison. So he had bars welded over the windows. The door to this thing was locked shut and it was guarded from the outside. So for all intents and purposes, it was an actual prison. But when Mike says he lived in the hole for 2 years, he doesn't mean he never left the trailer for 2 years. So that's how they were able to survive. How can about 100 people in the hole manage hygiene and living in such close quarters? Well, you'd be amazed what people can tolerate and survive through, obviously. The hygiene issue, like they showered daily. There was bathrooms. It's not like they were shitting in the corner or something. It was a bad situation. Miscavige wanted it to be a bad situation, and he made it a bad situation. It was intended to be unpleasant. Okay, do they take their clothing and personal hygiene products with them to the hole? No, they're pretty much wearing the clothes on their back. What I don't know the answer to is, were they given changes of clothes? I think I know they weren't wearing the same clothes for 2 years. I do know that. Somebody was responsible for doing laundry, whether it was someone who was not in the hole or whether it was a couple of the hole people who would then go and do everybody's laundry while being watched. That would be a total Sea Org thing to do. But yeah, and yeah, it's not like they didn't have soap or toothpaste or shampoo for 2 years. Some of these guys were in there for more than 2 years. If not, are they given shampoo, deodorant, toothbrush? Okay, answered that. Are there bathrooms and showers so the prisoners can have decent hygiene? Okay, so that's been answered. The base as a whole, like the trailer was located on part of the land within the boundaries of the base. The base is a massive facility and, is set up to house and take care of hundreds and hundreds, over 1,000 people. So there's plenty of facilities on the base to shower and all that kind of stuff. And they would just be taken out of the trailers to do their hygiene. Okay, if they get sick, were they sent to a doctor? So a lot has been said about medical care in the Sea Org. I think this question is specifically about medical care for those that were in the hole specifically. And going to the doctor is not something Sea Org members are very quick to do or very quick to be approved to do. You have to be pretty ill to get approval to go to the doctor. But I would venture to say that anybody who was ill enough would go to the doctor. Of course, I'm not an expert in exactly the medical care of the people in the hole, but I would not be surprised at all to hear that if someone looked like it was actually going to be a medical emergency, that they would be taken to a doctor, but whatever. Aside from sleeping when they could sleep on the floor with ants everywhere, no blankets, no pillows, ? Do they sit around the tables all day working as a group to accomplish whatever Miscavige put them in there working to do? Yes. They weren't just put in there to sit and rot. They were given busy work, administrative busy work, and also personal busy work. People who've been watching Scientology for a while know that there's something called writing up your overts and withholds, and that's when you sit down and you write down on a piece of paper all the bad things you think you've done and all the times you failed to tell somebody about those bad things when you should have. So that would be an example of personal busy work. You tell a bunch of people who are in trouble, get the frick in there and write your OWs and don't come out until you're done. And in order to know when you're done writing your W's, you're supposed to do a little check on the e-meter. And all somebody has to do is say, yeah, you're not done. Go back and write some more. And that could go on for days or weeks. So that would be personal busy work. And then there's just stupid administrative busy work that Miscavige was giving them to keep them busy and giving them just ridiculous targets to get this done by this time. So everybody could constantly feel like they were failing to do what was expected of them because he's a swell guy. Let's see, 2 years. Could they ever leave to say hi to family? No, that's not a thing in the Sea Org. Saying hi to your family is not a thing. Go home for Thanksgiving and Christmas. That's a big no. Even normal Sea Org members almost never get approval to go home for Thanksgiving or Christmas, much less Sea Org members at the international base. That's even more rare to ever get approval to go home for Thanksgiving and Christmas, much less people in the hole. They weren't going anywhere. Could they keep their cell phones to make phone calls? Fuck no. No. Sea Org members, by and large, are not allowed to have cell phones. Only some of them are. At the international base, and simple answer, no. If you're in the hole, you're not getting a cell phone. You have no way to contact the outside world. Did they get outdoor time every day to walk around for a little bit? My understanding is the only outdoor time they got was to walk to and from the showers. If none of these basic life necessities were given to them, what percentage got sick and what percentage went nuts and had to be left to die or taken out somewhere else for treatment? I don't know the answer to that question other than I am relatively confident to say nobody was left to die. I have not heard any stories of somebody dying in the hole. Sea Org members have their room, board, meals, uniforms, underwear, socks, shoes, and all courses provided free of charge and receive $50 a month. Correction. Sea Org members do get their room and board provided. They do get their uniforms provided. They do not get underwear, socks, and shoes provided. The first pair of shoes you are ever issued in the Sea Org, you do not have to pay for. Any pair of shoes after that, you do have to pay for. Now, that might vary from organization to organization, but my experience was that you had to buy a new pair of shoes, and you absolutely had to buy your own underwear, socks, T-shirts, even your hygiene supplies. The Sea Org does not provide soap, shampoo, or deodorant to Sea Org members. Sea Org members are expected to buy those things out of their $50 per week. All right. Are you expected to use your $50 per week to buy shampoo, deodorant, razors, makeup, toothbrush, toothpaste, contact lens solutions? Yes, you are. And I know a lot of people go, how's that possible? How can you live on $50 a week? Well, it's not easy, but you're also not living on $50 a week. Technically, you can make $0 a week in the Sea Org and survive. It's not a fun existence. It's nice to be able to go buy a candy bar or a coffee when you want it. But the Sea Org does give you 3 meals a day, and a lot has been said about the quality of the food in the Sea Org. I will be fair here and say that in my 7 years on a Sea Org base, I ate very well. And when I say well, I mean a lot. I mean, it was always chicken and eggs and rice and whatever. But I'm not one of the guys who actually complains about the food in the Sea Org because I don't mind chicken and beans and rice every day and eggs. I'm okay with that. I'm pretty low maintenance when it comes to that kind of stuff. All right, let's see. If you are allowed, if so, like if you have to buy all this stuff yourself, are you allowed to run errands on your lunch hour to go to Target or whatever, or to buy your personal necessities? On your lunch hour? Hell no. First of all, most Sea Org members do not have cars, so you would have to go get a bus or something like that. Once a week for 3 hours on a Saturday morning or a Sunday morning, they have what's called CSP, the Clean Ship Project, which is just a stupid C term for the 3 hours a week you're supposed to clean your room and do your laundry. And it also doubles as the time of the week that you can fuck off if you manage to get away with it. You can also get away with going out to the store during that time if you already passed the white glove inspection of your berthing. Doesn't this all sound very military-like? That's because the Sea Org does consider itself very military-like. They do not consider themselves to be religious, despite all of the bullshit they say to the press. So on your cleaning period on Saturday morning or Sunday morning, once you get your white glove pass, you can go to the store and buy your stuff. And that's pretty much the only time you're allowed to go to the store and buy your stuff. What's next? When Sea Org members get sick or need new glasses, is that all provided for you free of charge? Well, here's the thing. There's a difference between what the policy says should happen and what actually happens. Technically, the organization is supposed to provide all that stuff for you. It's just that the money's never available. So you have to put in a request and get approval to allocate the money for your upcoming doctor's appointment. And if the money is not approved in time and you go to that appointment and you pay with it out of your own pocket, it is absolutely policy that you are forbidden from being reimbursed. I mean, how's that for a wonderful Sea Org member friendly policy? You are absolutely not allowed to make any expenditure without prior approval and be reimbursed. It would be a violation of policy for somebody to reimburse you. So you can see that, somebody might say, oh yeah, the Sea Org provides all that stuff. Well, in theory, they are supposed to, but they don't. So that's the answer. What's next? If the Sea Org member needs to run an errand or go to the doctor, do they have to pay for their own transportation? Hell yes, they do. There is actually usually one Sea Org member who has the post title called Medical Liaison Officer, who theoretically is supposed to be available to drive you to and from doctor's appointments. So if you have like one medical liaison officer responsible for 300 staff members, and that's not his only job, like the MLO's only job is not to drive people to appointments, good luck on getting to your appointment. Okay, when you were in Philadelphia at age 13 working double shifts, did you get time off for family holidays, Thanksgiving, or Christmas? Yes. The Philadelphia organization is not a Sea Org organization. I just saw the question, do Sea Org members get Medicaid? That is all Sea Org members get. There is no health insurance for Sea Org members. So all Sea Org members are on the government dole when it comes to medical care. They either go to the free clinic or they get Medicaid. The Sea Org almost never pays for medical treatment. If a Sea Org member is from another country where they have socialized medicine, socialized healthcare, and they get seriously ill, they are sent back to their country. Even important Sea Org members, commanding officers of Sea Org organizations have been sent back to Canada and Australia from the United States if they get something like cancer. Okay, so the Philadelphia organization was not a Sea Org organization. That was a normal organization. So it was, those guys do go home for Christmas, and go home is the wrong word because those guys already live at home. Normal staff members in these organizations that are in like normal cities, not in Los Angeles, not in Clearwater, they live at home. They have normal day-to-day lives. They just happen to work at a Church of Scientology. Okay, what's next? Did you over your station? Next. If so, at times like this, you're allowed to relax and enjoy your feelings. Next. If you could leave, could your family? Okay, so that's all not applicable because Philadelphia wasn't a Sea Org organization. All right. You talked previously about Miscavige working with the city of Clearwater to buy waterfront property and develop the downtown near the building where Tom Cruise will live. You mentioned that it's absolutely dead downtown except for the Scientology buildings, and those people stay inside all day. At some point in the past, was downtown Clearwater full of retail restaurants and activity? And did it all go away because Scientology moved in? Yeah, that's what happened. So before the big giant flag building opened up downtown here in Clearwater, it's what's also called the Superpower Building. Some people call it the Mecca Building, but you're not allowed to call it that anymore. David Miscavige put a nix on that, even though it was his idea to call it that in the first place. Typical Miscavige move. Before that building opened, there were constantly hundreds and hundreds of Sea Org members walking down the street in uniforms. And it was weird and it was intimidating and people didn't understand it and people started to stay away and businesses started to close. Oh, look, I'm wearing my suppressive as fuck shirt. So the answer is yes. There was a time when Clearwater was a thriving community, and it was really the presence of what looked like an occupying force in Clearwater that drove retail customers and non-Scientologists out of downtown. Okay, you mentioned. So was Clearwater a happening place at some point in the past and Scientology drove it all away? I answered that. If Miscavige is successful in rebuilding, do you think the residents and tourists will come back or will they stay away because of the fear of Scientology? At this point, Miscavige is not trying to rebuild anything. The pitch that he made to the city government to help revitalize the downtown business district was just the carrot that he was putting out there for the city so that the city would let him buy this big property behind the Fort Harrison that was owned by the Clearwater Marine Aquarium. And the city was under contract to buy that land from the Clearwater Marine Aquarium. And the church wanted the city to back out so that the church could buy it. But the city said, suck on a big one. And the city bought it anyway. And so Miscavige has totally dropped his plans to revitalize the downtown business sector of Clearwater. And the city of Clearwater has stepped up and is leading the charge to revitalize that downtown business district. They're offering $250,000 grants to anybody willing to open up a bar, a restaurant, a wine bar, a brewery, a steak house, and currently they're negotiating two big deals to anchor this district. And it's a $250,000 grant because they forgive $50,000 a year, and after 5 years they'll fully forgive the grant. And so, where was I? Oh, do I think the residents and the tourists will come back, or will they stay away? I absolutely do believe that they will come back. The reason is that I think people who decided in the past to stay away, they haven't been back downtown often enough to realize that all those SEERG members aren't on the streets anymore. You hardly see anybody on the streets of downtown Clearwater. And I'm sorry, what I meant to say is you hardly see any of these SEERG members downtown anymore. There are actually a lot more non-Scientologists coming back to downtown. There's the Capitol Theater downtown, which is owned and managed by Ruth Ecker Hall. They're doing a fantastic job. They're booking really great shows there. There's a new gorgeous bar restaurant downtown called the Clear Sky Cafe. Beautiful restaurant. There's two or three of these in the Pinellas County area already, so it already has a great reputation. Clay's Bar downtown called the Lucky Anchor has been doing great. And anyway, there's stuff happening downtown Clearwater, and I absolutely believe that the non-Scientologists will come back. It's going to be a good thing. All right, moving on. Let's say that a truly low middle class person who barely lives on $15 an hour walks by a Scientology organization, and they're drawn in to get some help. When Scientology realizes that he has no credit, cannot get credit, has nothing to sell, no cash, no savings, etc., for Scientology to get. Once Scientology realizes this person is not going to be able to access the cash that they want, will they turn them away? No, they won't. But they will not spend a lot of time with them. They will sign them up for a very cheap course, $35, $50. These are called Division 6 courses. They're called introductory courses. Division 6 is the division of a Scientology organization whose job it is to bring new people into Scientology. They're basically just going to leave that person alone. It's like, okay, just put them on a cheap ass course, let them do their thing. If they like it, they'll stick around and they'll keep buying other cheap courses. And if they don't like it, they'll go away and no one's going to cry over it. They don't usually just get rid of people or send them away. They do want people there. As long as they look like normal and clean. If they look dirty, if they look indigent, if they look like a transient, if they look, the Scientology word for it is downstat. Then if they look downstat, they will come up with some reason why they're not qualified or eligible to sign up for a course. They don't want people in there that are going to turn other people away. But they don't just kick people out the door because they don't have money. I have seen people say that it's just not entirely true. When someone says that, there's usually a specific context they're referring to. Okay. I know that there are some free and somewhat affordable classes in the beginning, but if somebody really needs auditing help to change their life, does Scientology ever do pro bono for hardship cases? No, that is against the policy. That is a big no-no. You can get in deep doo-doo for giving people free auditing like that. Do they ever see any truly needy person who wants help? Shit, no. Scientology says it is about making the able more able. That is a euphemism for saying we help the rich. Able, I mean, I'm kind of kidding, but I'm kind of not kidding. Whether somebody is able or not is usually determined by whether they make a lot of money. If someone makes a lot of money, they're successful and able are kind of synonyms here. But again, I'm not trying to contradict myself. They're not going to get rid of you. But if you're poor, they're not going to make you leave as long as you're presentable. But they're not going to give you anything free, and they're certainly not going to. At a certain extent, I realize what I'm saying. If you give it enough thought, it really makes it seem like Scientologists don't believe their own bullshit, or they would go after all of these. Let's just say needy people and say, we can help you. We can help you. We can help you do better in life. We'll give you these courses for free. We'll give you this auditing for free. And it will help you be so successful and help you make so much money that you would love us for the rest of your life. You would be a lifetime member. You'd be a lifelong member. We'd have your full allegiance. If Scientologists really believed the hype of their bridge to total freedom, they would do that. So it's something I never quite thought of until just now. At least I thought of it quite that way. All right, let's see. Gotta find my place. Okay, when somebody walks into a Scientology organization and starts signing up for courses, and they have a middle-class job, you've mentioned that the intake people, like the sign-up people, are immediately trying to run their credit and figure out how to get them loans or credit cards. I'm not sure I actually said that quite that way. But if that person keeps the same job, he has no way to repay all of those credit cards and loans. Oh, Scientology does not give a shit whether you are able to repay the loans you've taken out to pay for Scientology auditing and courses. They will tell you that it's okay to overextend yourself because the higher up the bridge you go, the more able you will be, the more capable you'll be, and your income will go up. So even if you overextend yourself today, you'll have the wherewithal to service your debt and repay your debt tomorrow. By and large, that is bullshit. And that is why lower income, lower class, lower middle class, and maybe solidly middle class families or people that get into Scientology, they're the ones that end up bankrupting themselves, not the wealthy guys. The wealthy guys have enough money that they usually don't give all of their money. It's the middle class guys. It's the guys who are barely getting by, who end up taking out mortgages, overextending themselves, overextending their credit cards, and not being able to pay it back. That is how that works. Do they wind up having to declare bankruptcy? Yes, but get this. This is so interesting. After the IRS settlement or the IRS agreement, it became a serious ethics offense to declare bankrupt for a Scientologist to declare bankruptcy. And the reason for that is when you declare bankruptcy, there's some sort of an audit. I'm talking out my ass here because I'm not an expert on this. I'm just talking about what I've heard and what I understand. If you have made a lot of donations to the Church of Scientology and you've declared bankruptcy, in the audit process that occurs during the whole bankruptcy procedure, it will come up that one of the main reasons you've declared bankruptcy is you've given a ton of money to the Church of Scientology, and the church did not want this coming up on the IRS's radar. There are Scientologists I know of who declared bankruptcy to get rid of all the debt that they incurred by donating to Scientology, and the ethics officer made them reverse their bankruptcy and set up some payment plan. Doesn't that sound weird? Doesn't that sound like the church is working for the big banks? I'm not literally saying that they are, but the words that are coming out of my mouth sure makes it sound like they are. I have seen ethics officers give people interviews where people admitted to fibbing or cheating or lying on their taxes. And as a part of the ethics handling, they were forced to write a check to the IRS for whatever amount they feel they shorted the IRS for. What the fuck? And here's the funny thing about that. If I send some random check to the IRS, be like, oops, I owed you this money, they're going to fucking audit me. It's so much better to just overpay on your next year or something. You don't want to wave the white flag and go, hello, tax man. Just wanted you to know I'm sorry for lying on my taxes last year. I know you haven't caught me. I know I haven't been audited, but I've become a more honest man. And I just wanted you to know that I felt really bad about it. And here's a check. That is not how you deal with the IRS. But these teenage ethics officers that are in the Scientology orgs, they don't know anything about that. So they're like, you cheated on your taxes? How dare you? By the way, this is not a personal story. I'm not like this. My friend did it. This is not a personal story. These ethics officers, you cheated on your taxes? Oh, well, obviously, in order to make up that damage, you've got to send a check to the IRS. And you can't talk them out of it because their word is sort of the final word. Okay, moving on. Oh, that was the bankruptcy issue. There just are not middle-class people. There just aren't middle-class people with an average job that will have an extra 250 to 350K over their life. Yeah, you're totally correct. Most Scientologists do not make it onto the OT levels, even after 25, 30 years in Scientology. because they cannot afford it. Okay. When they are financially ruined. Okay, we're going to move on to the next series of questions here. When you say that people can leave the Sea Org and still practice Scientology in the community where they live, what does this entail? For a Christian, it would mean that you go about your daily life with your family, and your parents go to work and your kids go to school, and the family leads probably a Christian-based home philosophy, basically following the Bible. So how do you apply Scientology on a day-to-day basis in your home? Oh, that's not really what I meant. You don't do Scientology in your home. Scientology is something you do in a Scientology organization, and that is because Scientology means getting auditing or doing courses. Now, if you heard someone say, I apply Scientology in my day-to-day life, here's what that would mean. It would mean you try to do unto others as you would want done unto you. It means you try to have good communication skills with people. It means you try to maintain friendly relations with the public. It means you try to help people that you see injured. Like an example of applying Scientology in your day-to-day life would be seeing someone fall down and running over to them and making sure everybody around this person was quiet, because they believe that if you're quiet, then you're not going to create an engram. I don't want to get too far off into the weeds on this, but for the most part, when you do Scientology, that's something you're doing in a Scientology organization. Okay, there are a whole other bunch of questions here, but I want to start taking questions that people are actually asking live. So let me pull up my little chat window. Okay, first I want to see if this thing actually posted in the supporters group. Did it? Did it? I don't know. Can somebody please post a link to this in the supporters group? That would be super awesome. It's actually one of the main reasons I wanted to do a live stream tonight. Oh, a lot of people posted it. Okay, good. All right, let's get this chat thing up here. There it is. Hi, Jeannie. My Aunt Jeannie is on the chat tonight. Actually, my aunt's the one that made this shirt for me. Suppressive as fuck. I said that these shirts are Scientologist detectors. If you want to know if somebody around you is a Scientologist, you just wear shirts that have Scientology words on them. And anybody that looks truly confused, not a Scientologist. Anybody who looks mildly offended, annoyed, or like their jaw's a little open, they can't believe someone's wearing a t-shirt with Scientology words. Ding, 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 Scientologist detector. All right. Oh, I see some people who need some blocking. All right. When there's so many questions, it's hard to pick any. All right, I'm looking for some questions, guys. Let's see here. Scrolling through. Why is there a Scientology mission less than a mile from L. Ron Hubbard Way? Well, the answer to that is that L. Ron Hubbard Way has Sea Org organizations on it. There's only one of those organizations on L. Ron Hubbard Way where people are actually supposed to get into Scientology. And LA is a giant city. And a mission is like a light, it's like Scientology light. It's like a tiny, tiny Scientology organization. And they're also much more permissible. They're much more lax in their rules. So like if you're a Scientologist, you know this. If you're a Scientologist, you know that it's easier to be on course at a mission and you're going to get harassed less than if you go on course in one of those orgs on L. Ron Hubbard Way. They're not going to give you a hard time if you only go to course 3 hours a week. They're not going to be on your ass all the time trying to reg money because it's a small little mission. They also don't need as much money in order to stay open as a normal organization does. So that would be your answer is, I mean, a Scientology organization is supposed to have 10 or 20 missions around it. None of them do. None of them have more than one or two. Most have none. But that answers your question about the mission in Los Angeles. What else? What is the difference between PTS and SP? Well, I'll keep it really simple. A suppressive person is like the real bad guy. So let's say Darth Vader. No, better. The Emperor is a true SP, and Darth Vader is PTS. Now, if you didn't know better, you'd think Darth Vader was an SP because he's a pretty bad dude. But as we find out later on in the movies, Darth Vader was actually a decent guy who was turned bad by the Emperor. And that is the best way to define PTS and SP. SP is the bad guy, and the PTS people, the people who are PTS, are the ones who are just going effect of the bad guy, being negatively influenced by the bad guy. But if the bad guy was gotten out of the picture, the PTS people would go back to being good little boys and girls. All right, what's next? How awkward is it to admit being a Scientologist? Well, hello, Andy. When I was a Scientologist, I went out of my way to not tell people I was a Scientologist. Even when I was a completely dedicated staff member in Philadelphia. It actually made me kind of withdraw from people. I did not go out of my way to involve myself in conversations with non-Scientologists, because what they consider to be a normal non-loaded question, like, oh, what do you do, is a loaded question if the answer is, well, I work at the Church of Scientology, and you don't want to talk about it. So yeah, I always did have a problem with that. Has it gotten harder to admit being a Scientologist? I'm not totally understand the question. Like, Andy, I know that you know I'm not a Scientologist, so I'm not sure why you're asking me this question this way. All right. Next. Did you foresee the drama between the Facebook groups? I've noticed that there can be a rift between ex-members and independent Scientologists. I will briefly address this. There's not really a rift. There's a small group of people who like to say that they're doing everything they can to expose the abuses of the Church of Scientology and educate the public. But instead of actually just doing that, they spend a lot of time bitching and complaining and arguing with other former Scientologists. Now, amongst any large group, you're going to get people who disagree. That's totally fine. People disagreeing on issues, to me, is not a rift. Rifts. It's too late at night, and I've had a few too many sips of the whiskey. The rifts occur when people want to hate on other people for disagreeing with them. So what you guys don't see is what happens behind the scenes in the secret little Facebook groups that gets created by certain former Scientologists, where they spend a lot of time trashing and shitting on the Aftermath show and Mike Rinder. They usually don't have enough balls to shit on Leah Remini, but they do it covertly. And shitting on me because I'm a very loud contributor to the Aftermath show. And by and large, I try to ignore it. But I also have no respect for those people. So recently on one of those pages, I finally just called one of them out. And they go fucking nuts when that happens. They want to say all sorts of terrible shit about me. It doesn't bother me because nobody takes those people seriously. So my only point here is that there really isn't a big rift. People get along very well for the most part in the ex-Scientology community. There's less than 10 people who seem to have a full-time job to just talk shit about other former Scientologists and denigrate the activity of Scientologists who are actually accomplishing what those few people claim to be trying to accomplish, which is educating the non-Scientology public about the abuses that occur in Scientology. There's plenty of room for us all to be getting out the message. Anybody can start a YouTube channel with 10 minutes and a tripod. That's like my new catchphrase, 10 minutes and a tripod. Anyone who's bitching about the fact that they were on a TV show that didn't air, or that they haven't been put on Leah's show, or that nobody cares about me or whatever, should start a YouTube channel. And anyway, I've spent more time than I intended talking about that. I don't really like acknowledging the bullshit, but that's what happened recently. Okay, what else? What do you think needs to happen to end Scientology? I love this question because I love answering it, and because it's a good answer. And the answer is, you don't have to do anything. They're already doing it themselves. So you could say, well, why is there a TV show? So let me give a more complete answer. Scientology has been destroying itself since about 1990. Scientology's membership dwindles every single day. There are more people leaving Scientology than getting into it. That has been true for a couple decades or a few decades now. At the same time, I don't think Scientology will ever go away because of how much money they have. We have to define whether we're talking about the success of the religion in terms of people or in terms of dollars. Scientology has enough money in the bank and has enough real estate property owned outright that you could shut all of the doors to all the Scientology organizations today. And my personal belief is that with the interest alone on their reserves, they could probably cover the overhead for all of their properties, and those buildings would always be there. But the influence of an organization, I believe, is determined by a number of its members and not the balance of its bank accounts. Scientology has managed to keep the money going up while the membership is going down, and they've been relying more and more heavily on a more and more wealthy core of members, including Bob Duggan, who's a billionaire that's given over at least 75 million, probably well over $100 million to the church. Much more money than even Tom Cruise has given. I bet Tom Cruise hasn't even given 10 million to the church. Nancy Cartwright has given more money to the church than Tom Cruise, in my opinion. We know Nancy's given at least 10 million. So, okay, the question is, what do I need to, I think the question, what do you think needs to happen to end Scientology? Scientology is more than just buildings. It's more than just corporate paperwork. The books that L. Ron Hubbard wrote at some level will always be able to appeal to some people. So I don't think you're ever going to see Scientology disappear. But every day the Church of Scientology dies more and more and more. And the reason why TV shows like Aftermath are important is informed consent is what the world population needs with respect to Scientology. If people watch Leah's show and they watch my videos and they read Tony Ortega's blog and they watch Chris Shelton's videos and they decide they want to join Scientology, more power to them. I'm not here to save the world from Scientology. But the reason Scientology is able to trick and con and trap so many people is because it's not dealing with people who are giving informed consent. These people that get into Scientology do not know what they're joining. They do not know how their family could be impacted in 10, 20, 30 years. They do not know the secret OT levels. And so that is why I believe all of these the shows and the documentaries and the movies and the YouTube channels, I believe what these various media are accomplishing is educating the world at large what Scientology is really about so that there can be informed consent. And let's be honest, nobody in this day and age in their right mind is walking into a Church of Scientology, except for college students doing papers on cults, undercover reporters or bloggers, or comedians looking for some good material. I mean, come on, let's be real. You do have the people from Venezuela and rural Russia, and there are some people who are still tricked into joining Scientology, but that's really because they want to come to the US and they love everything American and they get some fantastic pitch about, the coolest religion in America and all this kind of shit. But whatever. I think I answered the question. All right, let's see. Some stuff about landmark education and EST training should be addressed on the show. I would like to see that, but I know that the question that would be asked is, okay, What's the angle? Like, what's the hook? How are we? Why are we talking about it? What are we presenting as the connection or the value to talking about this? How does it connect to Scientology? And I'm not sure that the show would do that. My money would say that they're not going to do that. I know that there was some speculation recently based on something that Leah said, that in season 3 of the show, there would be, sorry, I'm getting funny messages, that in season 3, maybe the show would start to focus on Jehovah's Witnesses. And actually, there was a huge outpouring of support for that idea. If I had to bet, I would say that's not going to happen. The show is called Scientology in the Aftermath. They're not going to just be able to change the name of the show in season 3. And if you're tuning in for Scientology in the Aftermath, you're not expecting to see a show about Jehovah's Witnesses. I would expect, here's what I would hope. I would hope that somebody would ask Mike Rinder to host some sort of a show about cults. Have you guys noticed how fucking amazing Mike is on TV? He looks amazing on TV. He sounds amazing on TV. The camera loves him. He's got an awesome voice and everybody loves his accent. I would love to see, whenever after Scientology and the Aftermath wraps for good, him to move on and do another show that explores all kinds of other high control groups. That would be amazing. I would watch that. Okay, let's see. What else? I'm going to try to keep this to an hour. We got 15 minutes. If somebody was to go into a Scientology property and offer anyone who wanted to leave help to do so, would there be people jumping at the chance? No, there wouldn't be. You know, one thing I really want to impart is that Scientologists do not think they are in a cult. And to say things like that to a Scientologist only reinforces to them the idea that there are big, bad, suppressive people in the world going around spreading lies about Scientology. Scientologists think that Scientology is the exact opposite of a cult. And whoever Stranger Than Fiction asked this question, Stranger Than Fiction, I don't know how much your familiarity is with the hierarchy of Scientology, but you know, you have the C organization, and then you have regular staff members, and then you have public Scientologists. And only the C organization members, only the Sea Org members are the type of Scientologist who might, where it might be justified to think of them as being somebody who can't leave. If you're a normal Scientology staff member, you can leave any freaking day of the week. If you're a public Scientologist, you can leave any day of the week. It is the Sea Org members, of which there's only about 5,000 in the entire world, who are the ones that really, on a day-to-day basis, would feel like they cannot leave. Most of those would probably tell you they don't want to leave. And even the ones that do want to leave, they normally just want to leave the Sea Org. They don't want to leave Scientology, usually. And that's why if you were to bust into one of these organizations with the FBI and make a huge announcement through a megaphone, we're here to let you out, and anybody who wants to come with us can come now, nobody would fucking leave. They see you as the enemy. Anyone that would kick down the door or bust open the gates of a Scientology base or organization would absolutely be seen as the enemy and would not be seen as help. All right. Why don't the police and the FBI do something? There's probably many answers to that question. One of the best answers is that, as terrible as a lot of the stories you've heard are, many of them, for one reason or another, still are not illegal, or if they are illegal, are past the statute of limitations. I'm not saying that what I just said is true for every abuse you've ever heard. The statute of limitations deal is a big one. Also, you have to have witnesses and you have to be able to prove something. Nobody in the Church of Scientology is ever going to testify against the Church of Scientology. And for every witness that would testify against Scientology, Scientology could put up 20 or more witnesses to directly contradict the statement who would be willing to completely lie and perjure themselves in court affidavits. And that makes it very hard to prosecute. I mean, it's the same question like the organized crime. You go, well, everyone knows these guys are the mob. Everyone knows this guy's a mob boss. Why can't they prosecute him? Well, they're very careful. And so is Scientology. How can they hold minors to a contract that they signed to join the Sea Org? That is not legal. Well, they don't hold minors to the contracts that they signed to join the Sea Org. I mean, they hold them to the contracts, but not through the court system. Those contracts are enforceable within Scientology because you can guilt someone into saying you signed this contract, and if you go back on your word, we're going to assign you a lower ethics condition. Those contracts are not enforceable in a court of law. I've never heard Scientology staff members even say that those contracts are enforceable in a court of law. So I think that answered that question. Let's see. If people were in the hole, when people were in the hole, would they have been capable of calling out to an emergency service? Nope. No landlines, no phones. If not, how did they get assistance if they required it? Well, I mean, keep in mind that the people guarding the hole were also Sea Org members. And so I realized the people in the hole were Sea Org members who were in trouble, and the people guarding the hole were Sea Org members who were not in trouble. But you still have a relationship there that is different than, let's say, in a penitentiary where the guards, for the most part, probably literally hate the inmates, and the inmates literally hate the guards. That's not the same dynamic that would have existed on the international base. So whereas people can do crazy things when they're following orders from crazy people, if someone really needed help, you just ask for help. Whether someone believed you really needed help was probably the biggest barrier. But no, you could not call 911. You could not call the police. You could not call an ambulance or anything like that. Let's see. I read that people cannot afford condoms, hence the unplanned pregnancies. That's actually a really good point. Yes. And there's not a whole lot of sex education happening in, well, these days they don't have kids in the Sea Org. These days they don't let, what would happen in the past is even if kids were not born into the Sea Org, some person would join the Sea Org and they would have like a 4-year-old son or daughter, and the 4-year-old would come along and go into the cadet org and be raised in the Sea Org. These days you cannot do that. To the best of my knowledge, the cutoff date for the cutoff age for being able to join the Sea Org is 16 years old. And even at 16, you obviously have to have signed parental consent. And these days, probably usually a GED. But, you know, in the decades past, the kids that were raised in the Sea Org, they didn't get any sex education. And so between that and between not being able to afford condoms and stuff, yeah, I think that's a good point. Next. Would we all be considered suppressive people? No. If you're watching my video, chances are you are PTS, not an SP. I'm the SP, and I'm making you PTS. All right, let's find something else. What do we have here? Okay. Is Scientology similar to Heaven's Gate? If no, what are the similarities between the two? Or if so, what are the similarities between the two? So Heaven's Gate is, that's the group that all killed themselves when that meteor was coming by. Unfortunately, I know nothing about Heaven's Gate, so I cannot answer the question. Scientology is only for rich people then. Well, when I was in Scientology and working for Scientology, I would have disagreed with that statement. And here's how I would have put it. Scientology isn't for the rich just because only the rich can afford to do all of Scientology. A Scientologist would tell you that, no, we'll take you if you're poor, and you can do the free courses or the cheap courses until you become able enough to go out and get a real job and make some real money. So the statement would be, only the rich can go all the way to the top of Scientology's bridge to total freedom, or only the middle class who have heavily leveraged themselves beyond the point where they will ever be able to service their debt. I think a lot of those middle class, lower middle class Scientologists die in debt. Does Scientology do any charitable or humanitarian work? How do we define that? Anytime there's a disaster, they gather up all the Scientologists who are willing to take a time out on their jobs or who are unemployed. and they throw yellow volunteer minister t-shirts on them, and they send them around to do busy work, and they follow them with video cameras, because the only real reason the volunteer ministers are out there doing anything is so that the church can record it and show the footage at their next event, to show all Scientologists how wonderful and helpful Scientologists are being in the community. I think I said recently that, what's the difference between the Good Samaritan work that the local Christian churches do in the community and the Good Samaritan work that the Church of Scientology does in the community? And the difference is that when the Christian groups are out there doing it, they're not being followed around by a television crew. That's the difference. What else we got? We got a lot. A really good, scandalous topic for a future conversation, a future video. Maybe I'll do this with Chris Shelton on our next video. Does Scientology condone pedophilia? Ooh, that's a tough one. No one asked this question, but it just came to mind, because it has been very well documented that Scientology will not report pedophilia. Here's what just jogged my memory about this. Someone said, where's this comment about Danny Masterson? Come on. Scientology cuts their own throat. Andy, you made another comment. Scientology cuts their own throat. They alienated and drove out Aaron Smith-Levin and Mike Rinder and Leah Remini, but they're all stocked up on Danny Masterson. That's a good comment. And in the show, someone has said, where have I heard this? This has been said many times. I think Paul Haggis said it. If you, he sent a letter to his friends, sort of kind of resigning from Scientology or saying stuff critical of Scientology. And Paul Haggis made the point. If you say anything critical about David Miscavige, they don't want you. They want to kick you out. They don't want you in there anymore. But if you rape a child, you're good. You're okay. They don't mind keeping you as a member. That they can deal with. Child rape, child molestation. No, that's okay. We can deal with that. You said something about it, but David Miscavige, get the fuck out of here. We're kicking you out the door. We're going to make your family disconnect from you and all that shit. That is what reminded me about this conversation that would be a good one to have. A public conversation. I certainly don't want to be the one being the devil's advocate and defending the church in that conversation. But it's the difference between, is not reporting pedophilia the same thing as condoning it? Man, that's a touchy one. I'm not sure I even want to touch that one. Nope, I'm not going there. All right, let's see. What else do we got? We're coming up on an hour here. And how tall is DM? He's like 5'1". I mean, he's shorter than Tom Cruise. Seriously, he's like 5 or 5'1". I don't know what Wikipedia says, but it's like shockingly short. All right, I guess that's probably all we're going to do for now. I hope to do another. I every time I do these, I say I'm going to do like 3 more this week, and I really do want to. I do have the time to do it this week, so I hope I get around to it. I'll probably do another How to Speak Scientologies this week, and I'll probably do another. I'll finish episode 2 of The Path, doing that little review, and then hopefully also do episode 3. If you haven't watched The Path, watch The Path, the TV show. All right, guys, it's late. Have a good night. Talk to you soon. Bye.